guys. All right, introduce Dr. Michael Smith. Life Extension is on sale.
What percent off your?
The Life Extension line is on sale this month. It's 35 off the suggested retail, so it's an extra 14 off our already discounted price there. So without further ado, Mike.
Thank you guys. So I have two sons. One is 6 years old, and the other is 20. And my 20-year-old just sent me a joke.
What's that?
So can I tell the joke? It's pretty good. What? Normally it's my 6-year-old that sends me the joke. What do you call an alligator that works on Wall Street? An investigator. An investigator. No, that's pretty good, right? That's good. All right. Anyways, all right. On with why you're here, right? So thank you. I'm Dr. Mike. I've been with Life Extension for 12 years. I think I've been here now. How many times, Mitch?
6, 7?
That many?
At least.
Woo. Yeah, it's been a few times. So
That was good.
tonight, I want to talk to you with what we call Life Extension's breakthrough formulas. I want to bring these up tonight because these are formulas that we really believe directly affect human longevity, not like in a drug conventional way, but human longevity in a vital and energetic and good way. Everybody got that? So we're going to talk about Life Extension formula. Who's heard of Life Extension here? Oh, that's easy. You guys are going to be a great crowd. Mitch, you didn't even raise your hands. Thank you, Mitch. All right, so let's just get right into this. The first thing I want to talk about is something called circadian rhythms. You're shaking your head like you've heard that. You know, by the way, normally when I do lectures, I like to wait till I get to the end for questions, but I think because we're such a small group, if you have a question on a slide, just raise your hand. We can probably just handle that together. Is that good with everybody? Okay, so who's heard of circadian rhythm? Who actually knows what a circadian rhythm is? I'm dropping my hand too, because quite honestly, other than a basic definition, we're still learning about what circadian rhythms actually are and how important they are. But I got some really good research to show you today how important they are, and you really should think about a healthy circadian rhythm if you want to live many more healthy years. Who wants to live many more healthy years? Of course, everybody does. So circadian rhythms, we're going to talk about how important that is. All right, so everybody kind of knows circadian rhythms basically is this idea that the human body is based off of a rhythm of nighttime and daytime. Nighttime and daytime. Everybody kind of get that, right? Nighttime, certain things happen that make us sleep. Daytime, certain things happen that make us get up and do things, right? That makes sense for most people, right? So we're going to talk about how important that 24-hour clock actually is to the human body. And more importantly, is if that clock, that 24-hour rhythm is disrupted, what can happen to you, and then how we can correct that if you think your clock is disrupted. Okay. Now this is kind of a clock. It starts, let's just look up at midnight up here. Let's see, you can't really see my my highlighter, but see midnight at the top of the clock. Let's work around this 24-hour clock and look at just some basic functions that the human body goes through in a 24-hour cycle. So at midnight, what should you be doing at midnight? Sleeping, right? Now listen, right there, if you're not sleeping at midnight, if you're having some issues, that might be a sign of what? A disrupted clock, right? So anybody have sleep issues in here? It's okay, yeah. That's a sign that maybe we need to address the clock in your body. So at midnight we should be sleeping. Notice that your lowest body temperature happens around 2 a.m. If you're somebody, raise your hand if you're somebody who can fall asleep, but you end up waking up way too early. Anybody? You get up way too early? Believe it or not, make your room as cold as you can. Did you know that? Make your environment as cold as you can, and you might actually sleep until the morning. Turns out the body wants to be very cold around 2, 3 a.m. in the morning. By the way, when you're sleeping, should you wear pajamas or no pajamas?
No.
Wait, what was that? I heard in the back.
No.
No pajamas. We should sleep naked. Did you know that? Clothing is very restrictive, and the body interprets that as if something's going on, and your brain is overactive. The only clothing you should wear, believe it or not, socks. It looks funny. Now you just pictured what that looks like. You should be naked with socks on, because the heat then is drawn to your feet, cooling off your upper body and your brain, and you'll sleep better. Try it. It looks funny, but give it a shot. All right. Notice about 6 a.m. we start to wake up. Melatonin drops. What's melatonin? Yeah, right. So it makes sense. When the sun starts to come up, what should happen to the level of melatonin in your body? Go down, right? And then the other one that should start going up is your stress hormone called cortisol, right? Cortisol is not a bad hormone, you guys. We can't live without it. It just gets a bad rap. As you wake up, melatonin drops, cortisol goes up. That's a normal circadian rhythm. Your highest testosterone level, women and men both make testosterone. Testosterone is your androgen that gets you going and gets you muscle strength. That should peak before noon. Your highest alertness, by the way, should be around 11 o'clock. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
You sound pretty good. Around 11 a.m. you should be feeling pretty good. If not, that might be a sign of what? A disrupted clock, right? Look at this, your best coordination, your fastest reaction time, your best cardiovascular strength all happens in the afternoon. Who works out here? Anybody work out actively in a gym? Uh-oh, that's not a lot of hands up. Let me ask that again. Who? No. Who works out just whatever activity it is outside daily every day? Raise your hand. I don't believe all you. I don't think this is. I don't. You just raised your hand to make yourself feel better, didn't you?
That's our exercise.
We should all be exercising every day. Jim, you exercise, right?
All the time.
Morning or evening?
Evening.
All right. That's a better time. Based on the circadian rhythm, your cardiovascular efficiency is better around 4 p.m.
Yeah.
Now, I work out in the morning because it just fits my schedule better. So work out whenever it fits. But if you really want to get the best benefit out of a workout, you should be doing around 4 o'clock or so. Keep that in mind. A lot of you didn't raise your hand, so none of you really care what I just said. That's okay. All right. Notice that the body temperature starts to get higher towards, maybe 7 at night. And then around 9 o'clock, melatonin starts to kick in again. So that's just kind of like a normal cycle of thing. It just gives you an idea of how the body is based on this ebb and flow of structure and function on a 24-hour clock. We are made to live off this 24-hour clock. There's no doubt. And it is based upon sunlight and nighttime. In our culture today, you have a question? Remember, we're okay with asking questions right now, right? Is that okay with everybody? Go ahead.
How does the different things you just outlined match the traditional TCM of which organs are stressed or are the ones that are most
Actually, very good question. It actually turns out this correlates very well with any type of different systems look at, they may not call it a clock, right? But different systems look at different energy levels, different organ system functions at different times. All of those different, whether it's a Chinese medicine type approach, whether it's believe it or not, there's now this movement called feng shui for the body. Have you heard about that? Where different organ systems are working at different times. It actually fits this type of general clock. Now, you bring up a good point. Everything you see here, guys, that's just a general idea of how every body should work. Are we all different? Do we all maybe have slightly different clocks and different organ system functions, etc.? Yes. Now, I'm going to answer your question better when I show you this same clock and I show you where things are disrupted. So let me just hang on there. Okay. All right. So here's what's interesting. This is why this topic is so interesting to me. That 24-hour cycle that the human body is based on is ultimately run by your brain. Makes sense, right? Your brain's your master thinker, master organ for running everything, right? Makes sense. What we've learned, though, is every cell in the human body, even cells outside the brain, also run on a 24-hour clock. It turns out whether you're a liver cell, heart cell, bone cell, joint cell, liver cell, kidney cell, pancreas, it doesn't matter. All of them have an internal clock. And that clock is in sync with the central clock in your brain. So what you see on this slide is you see the brain at the top. The brain is the master clock. That's what I want you to come away. It's the master clock that runs the ultimate cycles of light and dark. But that master clock then is in sync with all these individual clocks throughout your body that every cell line has, including your liver, as I said, your kidney, even your bladder has clocks that are in tune with the brain.
Pointed at your machine.
We just froze. Okay, we'll get it back. Hold on. There we go. I think my battery's running low. Mitch, can you do me a favor? Did I bring the? I didn't bring it. All right, we're gonna have to go through the slides quick. Everybody, pay attention. We may have to plug my PC in a second. Okay. Anyways, all right. Here's what I wanted you to say: fat tissue, skeletal muscle, pancreas, liver, heart. All of those tissues have clocks that are in sync with the brain. Look how important that is. Heart rate, blood pressure, digestive function, as you mentioned, skeletal muscle, fat tissue, whether you burn fat or make fat, is all based on a circadian 24-hour rhythm. All right, now at Life Extension, again, you guys are all familiar with Life Extension, right? All right, so Life Extension is a longevity company. There are many strategies that we help people with to live a healthier, longer life, like energy, digestion, hormones, immune health. That's very important, right? Muscle strength. Where does circadian rhythms fall when it comes to a longevity strategy? Is it one of these pillars? What we actually believe is that a healthy circadian rhythm is a true foundation for everything else we might want you to do to live a healthier life. You want to balance your hormones better? You want to metabolize sugar better? You want to control blood pressure better? You need to have a healthy clock. You need to have a healthy circadian rhythm. So what we want to do, most of us are not living in healthy clocks to the left. If you have a healthy clock, you sleep better, you think better, you function better. Most of us, because of age, just mutations in our DNA. Anybody ever work shift work before, overnight? You have before? Boy, that's just horrible on your clock. You guys relate to that a little bit? You rose your hand too, right? Yeah. Definitely. Anything like that, and just lifestyle in general. I mean, you guys, we live crazy lives today. I mean, we're not meant to be just going non-stop. I mean, everybody feel like that ever? It's just like everything's just constant. Work, kids, grandkids, homework, whatever that is. Dogs, I got two, I got kids, sons that send me jokes. I mean, it's like, God, stop. We're just going and going. That kind of stuff disrupts our clock. Here's what we know. So do you guys see that? You guys have the handout, right? Everybody see that slide? If you look at the disrupted clock, everything you see up there is research-proven problems that we have when our clocks are disrupted. Poor sleep quality, depression, cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, fatty liver disease. That's where the liver gets all congested. We can't like detoxify things. Metabolic issues like diabetes, impaired muscle function. All of those things, which basically most Asian Americans fall right over here, right? That's all been associated in the research with a disrupted circadian clock, meaning we're not following that 24-hour cycle like we should. So our goal at Life Extension is really to help people shift from the disrupted clock to the healthy clock. So how do you know if your clock is disrupted a little bit? let's go back to this clock here. Remember this one? Everybody got that one, remember? So let's just look at some things that you might be experiencing right now that tells me as a medical doctor that your clock's a little off, okay? So number one, too alert early in the morning. Anybody here consider themselves a morning person? Like you wake up and you're ready to tackle the day, right? Did you know that might be off a little bit? No, it's true. Melatonin is high when you sleep, right? Cortisol is lower when you're sleeping. As you start to get up, melatonin starts to drop, cortisol starts to go up, right? There's a transition in your brain as you start to get up. Believe it or not, to be a little groggy is normal. If you're waking up just like, boom, I'm ready to take on the day. Now listen, we're all different. Everybody has different clocks. But if you're waking up early and you're just like flying and ready to go, and you're bugging everybody else in your family, that might be a sign that your clock's a little off. All right, what about this? No bowel movement in the morning. Who goes to the bathroom every morning, maybe after a cup of coffee? Raise your hand. Yeah. It is normal to have a bowel movement when you get up in the morning. Why is that? That's because of all that stored waste. Your body wants to get rid of it so that you can bring in new food and stuff for the rest of the day. So a bowel movement in the morning is considered a healthy clock. Now, everybody's different, right? So let's don't, this is not like written in stone, but it is a good sign. So if you tell me, yeah, I have a lot of energy right when I get up and I never poop until 3 in the afternoon, I might actually consider that a disrupted clock. Okay, so that's bowel movements. As you get closer to noon, remember that's when you're supposed to have your highest alertness. If at noon you're starting to crash, anybody relate to that? That could be a sign of a disrupted clock. What about, now this I think a lot of people experience, afternoon sluggishness. You guys know, our cardiovascular system, our muscles, everything, we're primed at like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. If you're feeling down, man, that might be a disrupted clock. Again, could there be a lot of reasons for that? Yes, if you have a stressful job, for instance. So in general, though, we should have good energy in the afternoon. That's how we're based. It's how we're based on that night and daytime cycle. You're laughing. Do you have a lot of energy in the afternoon? Now you see, oh, here it is. Late night energy. Who has late night energy? Yeah, there you go. You guys, that's a disrupted clock. I'm sorry. When the sun goes down, we should be going to bed. Right? That's how we're built. So if at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, you're doing dishes, you're vacuuming, bugging everybody else in your household, right? That, he laughed. Yeah, he laughed. That is, could be, notice how I say that, right? Could be a sign of a disrupted clock. All right. Any of that sound familiar to people? All right, so let's look at basically how are we going to help people go from a disrupted clock to a healthy clock. So number one, we have melatonin. Melatonin is the key hormone that runs the master clock in your brain. How many people think melatonin helps you to go to sleep? Raise your hand. It can, but you know, I don't really classify it as a sleep hormone. You guys know that? It's actually a circadian rhythm hormone. What melatonin does is it resets your brain to be on light and dark, so that when it's time to go to sleep, you're going to fall asleep and stay asleep better, right? Melatonin is really about a regulation of sleep. You guys know that there's stages of sleep you're supposed to go through? There's actually 5 different stages of sleep. Melatonin helps you to go through those stages. And that's why it's important to the central clock. But remember, is the brain the only place where there's a clock? Remember, what did I just teach you guys about?
Roll you up.
Every cell in your body has a clock. Well, we have discovered at Life Extension that there is an antioxidant found in citrus fruit. It's called nobiletin, and it helps to reestablish those peripheral clocks. So Life Extension took a special form of melatonin, which I'll share with you, and combined it with Nobilitin from citrus fruit. And that is the first formula on the market that actually addresses not only the brain clock, but the body clocks. Okay. So melatonin, everybody familiar with melatonin? Who takes this to go to bed every night? I love my melatonin, I do. Life Extension has one called fast-acting melatonin. Do they have that here, Mitch? Fast, it's a drop? Oh, it's really good. This stuff, listen, if you take, it's a drop.
Yeah, we have the liquid.
You have the liquid melatonin?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good
couple of
stuff.
bottles, yeah.
It'll put you out so fast. If you're going to read a book, you got to be in bed. So that way when you take it, 20 minutes later you'll be out. It's wonderful. I love it. I do it. Especially, I travel a lot. Anybody travel a lot? Man, traveling is hard on the circadian rhythm. So for me, my liquid melatonin is very, very good. Melatonin keeps the central clock in your brain in sync with the environment. Ultimately, you guys were based on the sun coming up and the sun going down. That's how we're made, right? Melatonin synchronizes your brain with that. Melatonin can restore healthy circadian rhythms through restful sleep. And this was interesting that we discovered recently. Melatonin actually increases the expression of anti-aging genes in your body. Those genes are called, I saw your eyes go, ooh, yeah. Those are called sirtuin genes. These are genes specifically in your body that protect cells. And these genes have been shown to help us live longer. Melatonin activates those genes. Believe it or not, melatonin declines with age. What do you guys think? Yes, it definitely does. Here's what was shocking to me though, is how fast it declines based on your age. So here you have 0, 10, on the bottom axis here you have 10, 20, 30, that's your age. On the other axis you see the level of melatonin. About what age does melatonin peak in the human body? 10, 11, 15 maybe? Yeah. What happens by age 20? It starts to drop. I don't know where you guys are on the graph, but I'm way over here. So based on this, my melatonin, she just said my melatonin is like negative. My melatonin is way down. Here's the thing. Oh, go ahead. Question.
Don't you have to like when you're younger, more sleep
That's a good question. What do you guys think about that? Do younger people need more sleep and older people not need as much sleep? What do you think? It's actually, it doesn't matter what age you are, we all need the same amount of sleep. Yeah, that's what the research shows. As we get older, we don't sleep as long. So you know that range of about 7 to 9? That range is like that because younger people tend to be on the 9 part of it. Older people tend to be on the 7 hours a night part of that. But we should all still be in that 7 to 9 range. Most of the research is showing. So if you're somebody who is older, you're on this side of the graph, and you're not getting 7 hours at least, you probably need some melatonin. Now here's my theory though. Raise your hand. Well, maybe I shouldn't say it this way. Oh, we're a small group, we're a family, we can do it. Raise your hand if you're on this side of the graph and you sleep just fine. All right. Do you think you need melatonin then? Wait, but what does that graph show me though?
Yes, when I get back at 11:30, I don't get up till like 3 in the morning.
That's good, that's good.
And I don't wake up.
So maybe you don't need melatonin for sleep, but does melatonin do anything else in the brain? Like reset the circadian clock. So here's our theory at Life Extension. Even if you're older, based on this graph, this is a well-established graph. Even if you're older and you sleep okay, a little bit of melatonin still could be very beneficial for you.
You eat tangerines?
What was that? You eat what? Tangerines? What do you guys think about tangerines? Oranges?
Delicious.
You know, is she on to something actually? Wait, when we come back to that Nobilitin, bring up your tangerines again, okay? I think she's on to something maybe that helps with circadian rhythm. Here's my point. You could be sleeping well, as an older person. Number one, even though just because you sleep all the way through a night, it doesn't mean you're sleeping well. It doesn't. Most likely, if you're in your 60s and 70s, your melatonin is so low, even if you're sleeping through the night, you're still probably not getting that restorative effect that you should be from a higher melatonin level. So Life Extension believes that all of us could use a little bit of melatonin every night.
Curious, supposing someone has a setting brain pattern of sleeping, so they're always fixed at the same time, so they've maintained that the body's circadian rhythm is already in sync, what either side, because you're not altering it either way. Would that be a reason maybe that someone who has had a habit like that can go to sleep and feel refreshed versus it being altered all the time, like daily life?
Meaning that person doesn't necessarily need some melatonin. Is that kind of where you're going with that?
I'm just curious if there isn't, because you're not going, it's not like you're jet setting, traveling, or under stress, or even, I'm curious with you.
Even here's my thought of that. Here's my thought. Even if you're sleeping well and you have this nice pattern of what we call sleep hygiene, right, where you go to bed and you wake up. By the way, raise your hand again if you have problems sleeping. It's okay. Did you know one of the most important things you can do other than sleeping naked with socks? It's true. Go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time every single day. Weekend or not. Very important. But anyways, with that said, even if you're sleeping well, even if you have what you believe to be a good circadian rhythm, melatonin, it has anti-cancer properties. It helps with metabolic syndrome. So I still believe, even in that scenario, that a little bit of melatonin is good for all of us. My opinion. And I got some research to back that up a little bit. Okay? Very good. All right. So, do you want to sleep like the baby? That's kind of nice, right? Yeah. So, Life Extension is using a special melatonin in this product. It's called micronized melatonin. The total amount is only 1.5 milligrams. Is that a lot of melatonin or a little bit of melatonin? That's a little bit. It's not even that strong. So again, this goes back to the fact that we're not really using this product for sleep. We're really using this product for resetting that main brain clock. So we don't need a lot of melatonin. Research shows 1.5 milligrams of what is called micronized melatonin. This is a type of melatonin that absorbs better than the standard melatonin on the market. Now, you get 7 hours sustained release, 0.75 milligrams of initial hit of melatonin, and then 0.75 milligrams throughout the night. So it does help with sleep if you have a sleep issue, but even if your sleep is okay, we believe this form of melatonin is helping to reset that circadian clock. Now, go ahead. Oh, that's our source is it's pure melatonin from. We take a human source of melatonin, and in the lab we just amplify it. So it's a human true bioidentical melatonin. Every hormone that Life Extension ever formulates is bioidentical, meaning your body matches your own body production. Good. That's actually very important. It's a bioidentical hormone. Now, Nobilitin. Now, what do you like to eat at night again?
Tangerines.
Tangerines. Could you be onto something? It turns out you may have been like ahead of the science. You didn't even know it. So tangerines and other citrus fruit contain a compound called Nobilitin. Everybody see that? Nobilitin helps to reset the clocks in the periphery of the body, not the brain. That's melatonin. Nobilitin helps to reset the clocks in your liver cells, pancreas cells, muscle cells, gut cells, you name it. That's Nobilitin. Now I'm going to show you, I like this slide because it kind of shows you how this works, okay? The clocks that are inside each individual cell are basically genes, DNA, right? That's what they are. They're called circadian genes. Now, in this picture here, the blue part is the outside of the cell. It's called the cytosol of the cell. The yellow part is where the DNA is. What's that yellow part called? Inside the where inside the cell is your DNA kept? The nucleus. ATP is your energy, but that's good. The nucleus. The nucleus of your cell holds the DNA. So if you look inside, That's a picture of the DNA inside that yellow part, that's the nucleus. That picture of the DNA is what I'm calling a circadian gene. Every cell in your body has those genes. These are genes that run on a 24-hour cycle that run everything from energy metabolism to cell growth to hormone activity to sugar metabolism and fat metabolism. All that sound pretty important? That's how important these circadian genes work. Now, can this cell, let's say that's a liver cell, can that liver cell right there, can it tell if it's daytime or nighttime? No, it can't. But the brain does kind of help this cell to know that it is daytime and nighttime. The cell itself doesn't know, but the brain can send signals that say it's daytime, turn on those genes. It's nighttime, turn off those genes. So there is a connection between the environment, the brain, and all the cells in the rest of your body. So there is a synchronization of the brain and the cells. But in the cell, it kind of works like this. During the daytime, when the sun comes up, the brain says to the liver cell, all right, turn on those circadian genes. And those circadian genes make those purple things right there. Those are circadian proteins. Those proteins can run everything from sugar metabolism to hormone production to immune function to all that kind of stuff. All very, very important stuff for the human body. Over time, as the daytime progresses, that gene continues to push out these proteins. Those proteins build up over time, and then as you get to about 5 or 6 at night, they get to a point where there's too many of them. And they actually can go back to the nucleus and turn off those genes. So they go back to the nucleus, see the negative up there? And they turn off the gene for the nighttime. And then when the sun comes back up later, the brain kicks in, turn on those genes, and you start making those proteins again. So it's just on this cycle of making those proteins, turning off those proteins, making those proteins, and turning off those proteins. That may not sound that all exciting to you, but that process of turning on and turning off, and turning on, everybody with me, turning off, turning on, you can move too if you want, turning off, no one's moving, turning on, that rhythm, this rhythm is life. It's how you function. This kind of rhythm, make the protein, turn off the proteins, you get that rhythm? That is essential to longevity. It's essential to healthy longevity. So life extension, I'm not going to worry about that slide there. Life extension has combined that micronized melatonin with the nobiletin. In this case, I have an orange. It could be a tangerine. Thank you. Combine those two, and this is the first formula on the market that truly addresses not just the brain central clock, but the peripheral clocks in each cell of your body. We actually believe that this product alone is really important for setting the foundation for anything else you want to do. If you have a blood pressure problem, I'm not saying this treats your blood pressure, but if you reset your clock, whatever you're doing to make your blood pressure healthier will work better. If you have a sugar issue, anybody have a sugar issue? A lot of people have sugar issues, right? If you're struggling with treating that sugar issue, reset your clock, and whatever you're doing to help with sugar can work better. That's how important circadian rhythms are. Any questions on circadian rhythms? Jim?
On the melatonin, there's been some research showing that too prolonged use of melatonin can stop your own body from producing. Anything on that?
Yeah. So let's. I'm not going to flip the slides back to that graph. So if I'm in my when did melatonin levels begin to drop? What age? 20. Definitely. And that graph, by the way, is a well-accepted graph that I showed you. Let's just all agree, by the time we're in our 30s, mid-30s, melatonin was pretty down, right? So at that stage, my argument, Jim, is your body already is not making it. Right? So this idea that if I take a hormone, it's going to stop my body from making it, my argument is your body's already not making it. So that's just, it's a null argument. It doesn't really hold any weight. Same thing with like DHEA, testosterone, growth hormone. If you're ever interested in doing these kind of hormones, and you're worried about, well, my body's not going to make testosterone anymore. Well, for most of us, guess what? Our bodies aren't making testosterone anyways. That's the theory of bioidentical hormone replacement.
Okay.
Now, supposing the opposite thing is to why the melatonin drops, and not purely genetic, but is there a question of
Why?
what produces melatonin, what causes the body to maintain it? Because people have reversed testosterone levels without bioidentical, just based on energy.
Yeah, so there are, so the cells, the part of the brain that makes melatonin is called the pineal gland. It's just like a small little thing in your brain. What we believe to happen is the cells that actually produce the melatonin begin to die off over age because of oxidative stress, inflammation, whatever that is. So even if you were to do things to try to spur on the production of melatonin in those cells, it's probably not going to help as much as it might if you do something to spur on testosterone production. So the cells that make testosterone, because you mentioned that, right? Those cells can come back more for a guy, and we can make testosterone a little bit better with what are called secretagogues, things that help us make our own. But when it comes to melatonin, there's really no replacement for simply doing some melatonin. There's a point where your brain is just not going to produce it the way it should. And those cells have just been damaged through normal aging process. I think my computer is out, so we're going to have to just go by the slides. Is that okay with everybody? All right. Mitch, do you have one more slide thing for me? Oh, I got one. All right. So is this okay that we do it the old-fashioned way? No. Well, I don't have a plug. Do you have one, maybe? That's okay. I think we'll be okay, guys, right? Let's go to the next one. Everybody turn. What? Yeah, we're going to go to the slides. We're going to look at this one right here. Grumpy old sales. Everybody got that, right? Grumpy old sales. All right. So I asked the question, why do we experience degeneration? Now, what does that mean, degeneration? Like, why do we experience aches and pains of aging? Why does our joints begin to break down? Why does my brain not work as good? Blah, blah, blah. That's what we mean by degeneration. Why do we experience that? Like, what happens? And by the way, this is a big question. I'm not expecting you guys to have the answer to that. This is a big research question. Why? Well, that's one of the theories. It's just good old wear and tear. Good old wear and tear. There are other things. Loss of hormones. Oxidative stress. Inflammation. All of the toxins in our environment. We don't absorb nutrients as well, do we, to keep them up? So all of these things could be why our cells begin to degenerate. So I want you to turn to this slide right here. I'm going to teach you something called senescence. Has anybody heard of that word, senescence? Everybody see this slide here? Right? Senescence is the process for a cell becoming too old where it really can't be useful anymore. So as you have a cell that, let's just say a liver cell. A liver cell has a big job to do, right? Detoxify things. Over the lifetime of that cell, it gets too old where it just doesn't work as well. As a matter of fact, the damage to that cell can actually build up, like DNA damage, and it can have mutations and stuff. The last thing we want is for that old cell to divide and pass on that damage to new cells. Make sense? So we want to stop that cell from dividing. We want to say, you're done. Just hang out, you're done. That's called a senescent cell. Now here's the thing. When the body tells senescent cells just to stop and hang out, guess what? They don't. They become the grumpy old cells of the tissue. You know, the grumpy old guy in your, when I was a kid, get off my lawn, that kind of thing. You're laughing, yeah.
Why are you taking that?
Yeah. This is where you take that. That's great. So the grumpy old cell is that cell who can no longer function and divide, but causes problems like inflammation and oxidative stress. And his grumpiness, because of that oxidative stress and inflammation, can actually spread to other cells. So senescence, this idea that a cell is stopped from dividing, that it's too old, can actually spread to cells that aren't too old. And that's the beginning of tissue degeneration. We believe that senescence is really one of the key reasons we get the aches and pains of aging. So Life Extension wants to reverse that process. We want to be able to get these grumpy old cells and get them out of the body, and then we also want to prevent other cells from becoming senescent too early. That's the point of this formula that we have called senolytic activator. All right, so everybody go. Let's go to this slide right here that says the goal of treatment. Everybody see that? The goal of treatment. What we're trying to do for all of us that are getting older is we want to, number one, get rid of the old grumpy cells, old grumpy senescent cells, and we want to be able to prevent other cells from becoming old and grumpy. Everybody get that? That's kind of what we, and here's our thought. And I gotta be honest with you, I've been reluctant. I've been working with Life Extension for about 12 years. I am an anti-aging doctor. I'm a longevity specialist. I have always been reluctant to say that we can reverse aging. I've always been more about age management. Does that make sense, right? Age management. But I gotta tell you something. I think I'm still not gonna say age reversal yet, but we are on to something here. If I can take all of those old senescent cells in your body and get rid of them and help other cells not to become senescent, we are going to preserve tissues like your heart, and your brain, and your joints, and your bone, almost like we're reversing the age of those tissues. We are on the verge of actually a true age, or at least cellular age reversal. That's what this product is really the beginning of. So let's go to how are we going to do that. The first thing we're going to do, everybody take a look at this slide right here. Everybody see this? The first nutrient that we're using in this product is called quercetin. Anybody familiar with quercetin? We were talking about it earlier today. Yeah. Quercetin. A lot of people use quercetin. It is from citrus fruit. Again, there's your oranges and your tangerines, right? Pears. I guess you well, you eat a lot of fruit. That's good. Quercetin, by the way, one of the best things that quercetin does for you is help to minimize allergies. Anybody have allergies this time of the year? Try some quercetin. It's one of the best. Matter of fact, quercetin has been studied against antihistamines on the market, and it performs just as good, if not better, than some of those antihistamines. You can see these different types of fruits. Black elderberry, capers, cloves, chocolate, blah, blah, blah. You can see all the different food sources of quercetin.
Is that this dark chocolate?
Dark chocolate's always better. Yeah, I would say dark chocolate. Right, we know dark chocolate is going to be higher in the quercetin, higher in the polyphenols for sure. Yeah. Anybody like to eat chocolate?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, somebody in the back was like, yeah! I always suggest, at least, if you're going to eat dark chocolate, keep in mind, even if it's a healthy dark chocolate, it's a bar, you're still getting sugar and stuff, be careful. But at least about 70% pure cocoa butter is about what you want. That's the truth. Some people say 75%, even 80%. That may be true, but that becomes hard to eat. So I think 70% is a good number to remember for dark chocolate. And why would you eat dark chocolate? Where there's good antioxidants like quercetin. Turns out quercetin is really good at helping to stop senescent cells from causing problems. Why am I calling senescent cells old grumpy cells? Because remember, even though the body has said stop dividing, you've done enough, they don't like that. They start making problems in the neighborhood, right? The old grumpy cells. Quercetin is really good at getting rid of those old grumpy cells. What you see here on this slide right here, everybody see this bottom one? See the one to my right? Here, see those like blue colored parts of that? What you're looking at is a tissue sample. It's a liver tissue sample. See this? And you're looking at this in an older mouse. It's a white mouse. You see this right here? Those blue little dots, those are senescent cells. Those are old, grumpy cells. We applied quercetin to that mix, and then what happened at the end, if you look to the other side, see this one here? What happened to those blue dots? They went away, didn't they? Quercetin, along with another drug, believe it or not, a chemotherapy drug, was able to remove those types of cells, those grumpy old cells. So the blue is the grumpy old cells, and notice after we applied the quercetin with the chemo drug, there were no more blue cells. That's a sign that this tissue is starting to heal. This tissue is starting to act younger because those old grumpy cells are gone. Now, can I go ahead and formulate a product with quercetin and a chemotherapy drug? Because that's what this did. Mayo Clinic, anybody hear of the Mayo Clinic before? They're the ones that did this. They took quercetin and a chemo drug for cancer, put them together, and they proved that that combination was able to get rid of old grumpy cells. Can I formulate a supplement product with a chemo drug? Would I want to? No. So at Life Extension, we asked a simple question. The chemo drug that they used in this study, are there any plant-based nutrients that have some of the same properties, but at a much lower and safer level than the chemo drug? And guess what we found? Black tea. Black tea. Black tea has a compound called theaflavins. Anybody ever hear that? Theaflavins are good for your heart. Theaflavins are great for joints, right? Theaflavins in general are great anti-inflammatories. So we found that if we combine the theaflavins with the quercetin, we could mimic that study out of Mayo Clinic. So Life Extension has brought to the market, remember this is breakthroughs for Life Extension, we've brought to the market what is called the senolytic activator. This is a combination of quercetin and theaflavins that helps to clear senescent cells, old grumpy cells. Question?
What about green tea or white tea? Other
Good question. No, it turns out, so even though white, so we have three basic teas. Well, actually four if you think about it. You got white, you have green, you have black, and then you have udon, or that highly oxidized form, right? They're all the same plant. But it does turn out that based on the age of the leaf, the compounds are different. So it's really only black tea that has the high concentrations of the theaflavins. Green tea is higher in something called EGCG. Everybody ever hear that before? White tea, the younger tea leaf, that actually has a nice spectrum of all the compounds, but they're really low. So white tea has all the antioxidants, but low. Green tea concentrates the EGCG, black tea the theaflavins. So it's really the black tea that we want to focus on. That's where we extract it from. It's easier because there's more of them now. And that's this slide right here, the theaflavins. So once again, Life Extension has oh, go ahead.
Question: organic tea or not? Or the tea itself that you.
Our source? Oh yeah, it's non-GMO. It's pure organic. Yep, absolutely. Yep, good question. All right. So this slide right here just kind of shows you all the different food sources of quercetin combined with the black tea, and we can get rid of that old grumpy cell. This is called senolytic activator. Again, as a longevity physician, I'm not ready to call this age reversal, but I'm getting pretty darn close. This is pretty good stuff. What? What'd you say?
You're slowing it down.
I'm slowing it down. We're slowing the aging process down.
you take the tea with your meal, or when do you?
Well, we actually take, we took the black tea, non-GMO and organic, and we actually extracted out of it the theaflavins and put it in a capsule. Please drink your black tea. Black tea is great for you, so is green tea. But to get the right amounts of the theaflavin, we really needed to concentrate it in a capsule. So the product that we have is a capsule of the right dose of quercetin and the right dose of the theaflavins. Yeah.
I think you should mention, because I'm taking that myself, it's, you only do it once a week.
Yeah.
And it's very inexpensive.
Yeah, we have it, oh, here. Comes in a little packet like this. Yeah, so once a week is all you need. It turns out the form of quercetin that we're using in here, it's only 74 milligrams. Most products of quercetin are around the 250 to 500 milligram amount. That's because this form of quercetin actually does absorb so much greater than all those other forms. You only need this once a day. Now there's once a week. There's another reason for the one. And this is going to sound crazy. There's another reason for the once a week formulation. It turns out that building up old grumpy cells is kind of a normal process for the human body. And if you wiped out all of the old grumpy cells at once, which you could do if you took that daily, the body becomes kind of disrupted by that. No, they found that Mayo Clinic found this out, that it was actually better in those mice studies. Remember that slide I showed you, the blue dots versus no blue dots? It was better to space it out and get rid of the old grumpy cells in a more controlled, slower environment. So we actually do once a week dosing because of that, and the fact that you're getting so much quercetin into your system with this new food. Did you know that?
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Turns out, in a weird way, this is just an aside note, old grumpy cells, senescent cells, have a role in the immune system with wound healing. We're still figuring that out, but we don't want to get rid of all of them right away. We want to go through a slow process. The body seems to deal with that better. Okay, questions? Well, that's a difference. So with this product, you can take it anytime you want. It's not going to matter with the clock. The product that we have for the clock, right here, this one we suggest at night because it does have melatonin in it. Right? The Nobilitin you can take at any time, and it helps to reset those clocks at the cell level. But then because of the melatonin, it's supposed to do anything. Circadian sleep. Anybody work for the FDA in here? Because the fact that I'm holding up a product right now, I could get like sued. So we're just pretend like we didn't do that.
Can you take too much quercetin now? I mean, I take it every day for my allergies.
Wait, go ahead.
Can you take too much quercetin?
Well,
because I take it every day because of my allergies.
That's so the quercetin that's done for allergies is not the same form. You're probably doing one that's about 250 to 500 milligrams, probably. That one is fine for daily for allergies. Specifically to get rid of the old grumpy cells, it's a special form of quercetin that really hits your body hard, and you only need it once a week. Now, we have some people, some customers at Life Extension that have gone on this product for allergies to see if once a day with this new quercetin works, and we're actually gathering that data right now. But right now, for allergies, I would stick with that one you're doing daily. Okay, good. That's senolytic activator. Close to age reversal, you guys. Very close. All right, let's go. Lastly, I wanted to talk about Siberian rhubarb. Anybody make rhubarb pie? Listen, I don't think I've ever had a good rhubarb pie before.
Bring them one, please.
It's not all that great. Well, but here's the thing. I'm not a baker or a chef or anything, but I do like to watch the Food Channel. Anybody watch the Food Channel? I'm convinced that I simply haven't just had good rhubarb pie. Because I've seen those chefs on that show make it, and it looks good. I just think my grandma used to try to make it, and it was just horrible. Just bitter.
We always say rhubarb, but you cook it and eat it.
Well, yeah, and you're not only supposed to cook it, you're supposed to peel it too, right? Like all the way down. I think that's what my grandma didn't do. Because it was very bitter, yeah. Anyways, rhubarb, turns out it's great for menopause symptoms. Now, I wanted to talk about this because a lot of women today, when it comes to having menopause symptoms, first of all, we tend to think of menopause problems as being a very short period of time in a woman's life, right? For most women in this country, 45 to 50. That's kind of where we define menopause symptoms. Do you know we've now documented that women in their 60s and 70s have these symptoms that we're relating actually to menopause? Sleep issues, even hot flashes. You may not recognize it as you get older as hot flashes. How many women here, just curious, have like muscle cramping at night? we're now starting to relate that to hormonal issues from menopause. So I know this sounds like this product maybe sounds more for women in their 40s or something like that, but what we're learning is the symptoms of menopause can actually be anywhere from 30s all the way up into the 80s. Yeah, you guys, poor women, woo! Us guys don't have to worry about all this. Now we do get we have andropause as guys. You guys know what that is? That's the loss of testosterone. That's when we grow boobs and we get big bellies. Yeah, that's andropause. It's true. It happened. What are you gonna do? But for women, the reason I wanted to talk about this is it's not just a midlife thing. There are symptoms that you could be experiencing that we can actually still relate to the loss of estrogen. Specifically this. Do women get heart attacks? Do they get as much as guys? Nah. Yes, women are actually now outpacing men in heart attacks. And you know what we're linking it to for women? Loss of estrogen. Loss, yes, of course, that's always, yeah, it's always, I can always say that about anything. But no, it's loss of estrogen. So even women in their 50s, 60s, 70s that have heart attacks, we often can test estrogen levels, and there's like no estrogen levels. So this is a product that actually can help every woman, no matter what your age is. Basically, she has a sensitivity to rhubarb as a food source, right? Yeah, that's what that sensitivity is. The product that we formulated is only the key compounds from rhubarb. So you could probably still take this and not have any issues because it's not the full food source. Okay? But in those cases, I always tell people to try it maybe every other day, every third day dosing, and just see how you do and just increase it if you tolerate it. Yeah. All right, so rhubarb is a phytoestrogen. What's a phytoestrogen? Plant-based estrogen. There's a lot. Soy. Everybody know soy? Plant-based estrogen. Any other plant-based estrogens? Soy.
Red clover.
What was that?
Red clover.
Red clover.
Black clover.
How about just cruciferous vegetables in general? There's a lot of basically phytoestrogens. Black cohosh, very common one in the industry. But anyways, rhubarb is a form of estrogen, but it's from plants. So if we ingest it, we get some estrogen stimulation. What makes rhubarb very unique versus other phytoestrogens is most of the symptoms that women, especially as you get older, most of the symptoms that you could be experiencing from menopause, like depression, mood issues, even weight gain, they are because you have estrogen receptors in the not necessarily like in your brain and your breast tissue and stuff, but estrogen receptors in your fat tissues and your muscle. Siberian rhubarb as a phytoestrogen helps to bind to those receptors in the periphery. And that seems to really help with some of those symptoms that we don't necessarily think of as menopause. So women in your 60s and 70s, if you're dealing with depression, anxiety, and you're being treated for it and it's not working well, not only should you consider circadian rhythms, you might also consider something that binds to estrogen receptors like Siberian rhubarb. Question?
If you look at the menopause slide, okay.
Everybody find that one?
Okay, the menopause slide. Estrogen and progesterone are pretty much at the very beginning, at the top. They're both kind of like almost there. And then the progesterone levels plunge, whereas your estrogen levels go up and down, up and down. Why, instead of working on estrogen, why wouldn't you support the body's own mechanism of making progesterone so as to balance out the body?
Very good question.
Because
the answer is
you can become estrogen dominant in your menopause.
Yeah. The answer to that is we do. So we're not talking about progesterone here. We're talking specifically about the phytoestrogen of Siberian rhubarb. But most women who are experiencing symptoms that are younger, which is where you see estrogen dominance for the most part, we do start with progesterone creams. Yes. Okay. Most women in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, they're not estrogen dominant anymore. Both hormones are just flat. What you're seeing here, especially perimenopause, is the hormone irregular fluctuations that happen mostly in younger women. So in younger women, I actually begin all hormone therapy with progesterone because I want to stop that estrogen dominance. But in women that once you've completely gone through menopause, like you're definitely not having any more menstrual cycles anymore, it's been years, if you're having some symptoms of menopause, for them, they need estrogen stimulation, and that's where the phytoestrogens can come in. All right, question?
Does it have to be a Siberian type of rhubarb?
Yes, it is the Siberian rhubarb. Siberian rhubarb specifically has the key compounds that bind to those estrogen receptors in the periphery of the body, like the muscles and stuff. So that helps with those symptoms that you might not associate with menopause that could be menopause.
So, I was what's in rhubarb? This peak, and they say, not knowing
Yeah.
So, how does it sell it? Or is this a rhubarb?
Yeah, so what we did is, in order to find out which plants, phytoestrogens, had the best effect on those symptoms of menopause, like outside of hot flashes and stuff, we actually studied over 10,000 compounds. And we found that Siberian rhubarb was the one, based on good laboratory research, that was able to bind to those receptors in like your muscles and stuff, which is where a lot of those secondary symptoms come from. So it was through extensive research that we figured out Siberian rhubarb was the best form of it. Did that answer your question? No, you could eat, yeah. No. Oh, good point. This picture, by the way, I tricked you. See that rhubarb right here? That's not Siberian rhubarb. You cheated. This is the kind of rhubarb that you cook with. Yeah, that's not Siberian rhubarb. You don't want to eat. It's very, very, very bitter.
I had asked that question. You didn't know what the heck going on.
I just told you now.
I know, but I mean,
We did, because Siberian rhubarb is like gray and ugly. So Siberian rhubarb is not the ones we cook with. My grandma, who made that really bad pie, she was probably using Siberian rhubarb. That's not this form here. Yeah. So please, make your pie with the rhubarb you do that with, but when it comes to those estrogen stimulation symptoms, we want the Siberian in the capsule. Okay? All right, any questions on that? I think the last thing I wanted to mention, everybody turn to these two slides. Oh, go ahead.
How often do you take the Siberian?
Every day.
One capsule?
Yeah. We're actually looking at what's called maintenance. It is one capsule, but we're looking at what's, that's a great question, because that always goes to the idea of maintenance, right? Like maybe you're having symptoms,
Okay.
so you do something daily for a while, then you feel better. Does it have to continue to be daily? Can it be every other day? Can you skip a month and go to it? That kind of stuff we're still looking at, but right now I would still say daily at this point.
with food, without food,
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter with Siberian
does
rhubarb.
it interact with your blood?
Nope. Siberian rhubarb does not affect any of the prescription drugs. All right. Oh, question?
I'm sort of going back to the quercetin slide and seeing the items that are good for quercetin.
The food sources? Yeah.
If you happen to have a high quercetin diet, would you have less need for, say, the formulas
Yeah.
that you...
Again, I think that's a great question, and I like the theory and the idea of it. So let's just, what he's asking is, if I'm eating a lot of quercetin-based foods, will I be able to get rid of some of those old grumpy cells, right? I think to some level, yes, I think that's great. But the research shows that there's a certain level of quercetin that you need to actually truly clear those senescent cells at a good rate. And I mean, you'd have to eat tons, poundage of that food every day to get that level. That's why we make the supplements. Another good example is the theaflavins from the black tea in that. The number of cups of black tea you'd have to drink to work with the quercetin to get rid of the old grumpy cells would probably be 20, 30 glasses a day. Who's going to do that? That's the level of theaflavin you would need. So instead, knowing that, we take that theaflavin out of the black tea, we concentrate it for you at the right dose, so you don't have to worry about that. Drink a glass of black tea with the capsule, you're good to go. Instead of 20. Everybody see that? That's what's called extraction chemistry. We're extracting the right amount out so that you don't have to eat 1,000 grapes to get a milligram of quercetin. Instead, you take one capsule and you get 200 milligrams. And you eat a handful of grapes. That's better, right? Okay. Lastly, Life Extension, I do believe, has one of the better brain formulas on the market. I'm not just saying that because I have this thing here that says Life Extension. We have a product called Cognitex. Anybody ever hear of this one? Yeah. It was one of our first truly research product. When we first came out with it, it had 12 active ingredients, and it was the first brain formula on the market that had substantiation from clinical research for all 12 ingredients. It kind of began our journey into this industry as a true leader in the science. We've now added sage to our Cognitex. Turns out sage, anybody ever burn sage? You burn it, you get that smell. Apparently it's really good for like just feeling better, you feel a little more alert. Turns out that's correct. Sage actually improves both attention quickly, like if you're in the middle of your day and you start to get sluggish, smelling some of that sage or doing an extract of sage actually improves your concentration and your performance in whatever you're doing. So we added sage recently to our Cognitex to get a more acute, quick improvement in attention and performance for whatever you're doing. And that's what these two slides here show. It shows that very quickly, over just about 4 hours, sage can improve attention and performance. So that's what we've added. And again, it just makes this product Cognitex even better for us. Any questions there? You guys were great. You guys didn't even have the slides to look at up there. So we covered circadian rhythm. We covered senolytic agents. That was your old grumpy cells. That's the quercetin and theaflavin. And then we talked about Siberian rhubarb for menopause relief. So we could stop here and just open up for any questions you guys might have. Any questions?
So I became interested a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago, in this melatonin and early morning heart attacks. So when I saw your graph, I'm thinking, I think that makes sense, right?
Yeah, melatonin and early morning. Do you know not only do most heart attacks occur
between 6 and 10.
Well, not only do most heart attacks occur in the morning, do you know what day of the week they occur? How'd you guys know that? You took it out. That was going to be my thing. Yeah, it turns out most heart attacks start on the weekend, but people want their weekend so bad that they can manage the heart attack until Monday morning. They got to go to work, and now they have to go to the hospital. It's true. You see it. I worked in emergency rooms. You see it all the time. When did the chest pain start? Oh, Friday about 8 p.m. But they wanted their weekend. They didn't want to go to the hospital. What were you doing? Oh, I had barbecue and a few beers. Oh, but now it's horrible. Yeah, morning stuff actually is more related probably to cortisol increase, not the melatonin drop. Yeah, so in the morning, this is going to sound crazy, but it's true. Just in case you ever in the morning have chest pain and you think it could be a heart attack, what are you going to do? You're going to call 911, right? Get to the hospital. But when you do that, one of the things you don't want to do is have a bowel movement. Even though that's a good sign for circadian rhythm, it's a bad thing to do when you're about to have a heart attack. Because when you bear down to have the bowel movement, cortisol shoots up, and that's when the plaque ruptures and you get the full heart attack. So we actually do believe it's related to cortisol spiking. So no bowel movements if you're having chest pain on Monday morning. If it's Friday morning, so have all the bowel movements you want. But Monday morning, no.
They didn't say anything about bowel movements in those.
Any other questions? You go ahead. Yeah. Nobility.
All right, so what's looking for is in the
It's from the peel. It's not the it's the white part. So when you peel back any citrus fruit, right? You know that white stuff. That's where there's a lot of really good compounds, antioxidants, proteins. One of my favorites. Yeah, who said that? Did you say that? Yeah, very good. One of my favorite compounds in the white is called D-limonene. Did I just talk about D-limonene with somebody today? Was it? Yeah. Great for heartburn. Yeah. So it's that white part that we're extracting the nobility.
So,
Oh, that wasn't your question?
no, that's not my question. So, there's grapefruit, pears, and oranges, limes, and all that stuff. In the orange family, there's one that's a pretty big one, and then it has a bump out at the end. Not a maple.
Tangerines?
It's a way bigger bump out at the
Okay.
end. But that's the one that has the thickest white
Yeah.
stuff. And I think you get a good fiber amount, which is most of the fibers also. So one day I just scraped all that off. So
Well, you're really into this.
I am. So I buy that kind because it has the thickest part.
Yeah.
And then I just scrape it off into my
So you eat the white part?
Yep. It's not awful.
I'd rather just do the capsule, no offense. but-
Well, that was before I knew about all this stuff.
Yeah.
And besides which, each one of those citrus fruits is a different measure of whatever.
Oh,
The
sure.
oranges are on the big end.
Yeah, we source our nobilitin and our quercetin from more of the sweet orange variety. And they tend to have more of that. All citrus fruit has that white stuff. It's just a matter of how easy it is to source it out of that. It turns out sweet oranges are really easy to pull out like quercetin. So we use a lot of sweet oranges.
So what do you mean? More like
You're right.
tangerines or-
They're smaller, and they don't have a lot of white.
Right, and neither do tangerines. And well, you brought that up, that instantly.
I eat the tangerines, I eat oranges too. And
Well,
grapefruit.
I'm sure you eat everything. It's just that,
Yeah.
since that was your go-to, I knew that the other oranges.
Any last questions?
Can we thank our speaker?
Thank you, I appreciate it.